Living in America right now feels like a punishment. You wake up already behind, you go to work just to stay broke, and you watch the cost of everything rise while your paycheck doesn't move an inch.
This economy is so bad, you'll be sitting here thinking you're bad with money, and all you did was buy food.
And I never understood the people that make work their whole life, like their whole identity. Like, you putting in all this work and you still struggling? Hell no.
Hi, so today we're going to see how the rise of the cost of living is impacting the American citizens.
Living in America right now feels like a punishment. You wake up already behind, you go to work just to stay broke, and you watch the cost of everything rise while your paycheck doesn't move an inch. Groceries are a luxury, rent is robbery, healthcare is a joke, and somehow we're the ones blamed for not budgeting better. People are working 2-3 jobs and still choosing between food or gas. Families are crammed into apartments because buying a house became a fantasy. You can't afford to get sick. You can't afford to rest. You can't afford to exist. But they keep telling us the economy is strong. Strong for who? Because it sure as hell isn't the people doing the work. We're out here treading water while billionaires build rockets, politicians trade stocks, and corporations raise prices just because they can. We were promised opportunity. We got survival. And what makes this worse is watching people blame themselves. Like somehow you failed because you can't afford a 1-bedroom anymore. Like you didn't do enough when the truth is the math just stopped adding up years ago. They told us to work harder, but never told us they'd change the finish line. This isn't a country full of lazy people. It's a country full of exhausted ones.
Unfortunately, at this rate, no amount of work will be enough to sustain a normal life. What I mean by normal life is eating 3 meals a day, being able to buy a house, being able to cover the transport fees, and being able to have children. The price of the goods and services are skyrocketing while the salaries are staying stagnant. And the people who were supposed to moderate those rise are not doing their job. Let's be real. We're at a point where corporations are more powerful than governments because they are the ones financing the campaigns of your future president, of your future mayor. This is the reason why the job market is so unfair. It is the employer's market and it is dictating the rules while the employees can only accept. So you see massive layoffs based on short-term profit, AI replacing the employees, companies outsourcing most of their services in countries where the labor is cheaper. This is why some Americans are unfortunately leaving the country for a better life. Like this comment who said, I totally get it. That's why I packed my stuff and left the country. I'm having a hard time integrating to a new culture, but I will never go back to the US. At least my rent is $400 a month. There's still countries like Thailand, Colombia that are still inexpensive. That's why the best way to make it work is having a job in the States while living in a country where the cost of living is pretty low, so your dollars can last longer. So in the comments, someone said, I make 38 an hour and struggle to pay bills and buy groceries. Being poor is like living in hell. Indeed, nowadays, you need around $60 an hour to live a normal life.
This economy is so bad, you'll be sitting here thinking you're bad with money, and all you did was buy food. That's it. And not luxury food, regular food, just survival items. You check your bank account like, who did this? It was eggs. Eggs did this. You didn't splurge. You didn't treat yourself. You just needed to eat more than once a day. Groceries used to be a neutral experience, just a regular part of life. Now it's a financial event. You walk into the store calm, and you walk out like you made a series of reckless choices. Just one bag, $80, no explanation. Okay, and the worst part is the math you gotta do. You're like, okay, if I just don't eat out for 2 weeks, why is food being framed as a hobby? People give advice like, just budget better. For what, air? I love when banks send the alerts like, you've spent more than usual on groceries. Yeah, I noticed. I was there. Okay, at this point, I'm not bad with money. Money is bad with me. Okay, if I say I'm saving this month, what I really mean is I'm choosing which meals to skip.
So last time, I had a friend who lived in Minnesota that was complaining about how expensive things are. So he went to a bowling for a date and he spent around $100. He bought some food, but the food wasn't from an expensive restaurant. And it reminded me that nowadays, if you want to go out, you gotta be ready to spend at least $100. Because I remember bullying in the 70s, 80s, it used to be an activity for teenagers because it was so affordable that teenagers would go there for their date. The friend that I'm talking about, he's close to his 30s now. Like the most basic activities are becoming luxurious. So let's go to the comments. Someone said, I've lost 30 pounds in the past year because I can only afford to eat once a day. This is the reason why we see more and more vegans. Some of them told me that the price of meat was one of their main motivation.
What would be so wrong about nobody having to struggle? Like, at the end of the day, money is a made up thing. Like, it really is just a piece of paper. It's the worth that we put into that piece of paper. Like, the government literally said, this is how you're going to trade and get things. And so this paper is valuable. And so then it made it so that the more of those dollars you have, you're seen as more than. But it's like, at the end of the day, why does anybody else have to struggle just because they don't have that piece of paper? Like, we have all these vacant buildings, literally just empty buildings. Nothing's going on in there. Why can't you guys renovate that and let people go in those buildings and get off the streets? If you really want people off the streets and they're making your streets dirty or whatever. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why does someone have to struggle to eat? Why can't they just have the ability to eat food when there's all of this food that's available in the world? And food gets thrown out of the grocery stores if it doesn't get eaten by a certain time. So there is food for everyone to eat. Like, what is the point of having anyone struggle when everything that they would need is available, and they would be able to have that if they had a piece of paper? A piece of paper that everyone gave value to. And since everyone gave value to this piece of paper, that's the reason why they have to struggle and not be able to eat and not have housing. When realistically, like, why do they have to earn their living and earn a house and earn food every day when they didn't ask to live this life at all? They didn't ask to be born, but they have to earn their right to live. Like, it is really insane.
This is why many people are leaving the US, and it is affecting the value of the dollar. You see, many people are now investing into gold. That's why the price of gold is higher, because they don't trust the US dollar anymore. Like this comment said, capitalism need homeless people so it can scare the workers into slaving their life away. That's the only way they can scare us. Because if we have everything, free healthcare, free education, free food, we won't need to work anymore and we'd be at the same level.
I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I've had breakdowns, not just mental, not just emotional, but because I see it clearly now. This is all a really out-of-date game. Money isn't even real. Debt, credit scores, rent, mortgages, they are pieces of paper or numbers on a screen. None of it is real. But the consequences, those are real. On us. And this game only exists so a few people can feel powerful. Their entire identity is status. And the only way they feel something is when they're dominating other people. And we're all supposed to just play along. Work ourselves in the ground, lose our minds so they can keep this fantasy going. I'm tired of living in a world where survival is a game. Tired of pretending this is normal. Honestly, I don't know what happens after whatever this is. But I know this can't be it.
So in the comments, someone said, I'm tired of surviving in a world set up for me to constantly lose. And the creator said, I feel this so deeply. Indeed, it feels like the game is rigged. For example, the amount of money we get after the taxes doesn't allow us to have an extra income that we can use to build a business. The amount of time and energy that you have at the end of the day isn't enough for you also to build a business and be financially free. Meanwhile, while those who already have money can put it in an index fund and fund their lifestyle with the dividends. So in the comments, someone has said, America is a scam and the people who control this country will only continue to take more from us. I mean, subscription to use your car you pay for, ads on smart fridges, it's all a scam. Until we come together as one and fight against it, it will only get worse. We're at a level where you will own nothing and still be happy about it. For example, when you buy a house, you need to pay the property tax. And we got priced out of so many goods. The cars, you can't buy it cash nowadays, so you have to finance it. The education that is supposed to allow you to thrive in this society is also pricing out every single one. So you need to depend on a monthly payment in order to finance it. And it doesn't guarantee you a job. So in the comments, someone said, I'm so glad I'm unemployed now. Yeah, I do think right now, if you're getting that paycheck while being unemployed, you're pretty lucky.
And I never understood the people that make work their whole life, like their whole identity. Like, you putting in all this work and you still struggling? Hell no. Stop overworking and getting underpaid. Because best believe if something was to happen to you, you would be replaced the next business day, baby. Out of there. They will have interviews already lined up for your position. Y'all still stand after work an hour, 2 hours to make sure y'all look good for y'all boss or look like the star employee just to get a 15-cent raise at the end of the year? Yeah, I think not. Put that PTO in, take them vacation days, and give yourself a break. Stop letting them jobs stress y'all out.
So those people who are overworked and underpaid, they're so tired they don't even have the time to ask the hard questions, to compare themselves to the older generation and see if the system is as generous as it used to be in the past. Because nowadays, people work as hard as they used to, or maybe even more, because you bring work at home. Your boss can contact you anytime to ask you for a favor, even during your PTOs, while we get half of the buying power of our parents, which doesn't make any sense. So someone said, this is why I own my own business. They ain't ever gonna get me. If that is the best way to make it nowadays. Depending on the business, you'll be able to work from anywhere. You'll also be able to use a lot of tax write-offs. So you can buy a lot of goods that you use on a daily basis as an enterprise purchase.
I'm just at a point where I just don't give a about work no more. And I hate getting to this point. Because the only thing that come after this is me getting fired or me quitting. Like, I'm starting to wake up and not want to go to that now. Like, I already didn't want to go, but now I'm really like, man, I'm at work doing whatever. I'm at work looking however. I just want to stay home with my mother kids. I just want to get rich and stay home with my kids. I want to live life, travel. I want to do all this shit that rich people do. I don't want to go to the job. I don't want to wake up and go to work tomorrow, today, next week. Like, I'm tired of having fun all night, all weekend, and then gotta stress about work. Like, what am I supposed to do? I just don't understand no more. Like, I've outgrew employment. I'm all set.
Yep, that Sunday stress hits you so hard during the evening when you know that on Monday you got to go back to work. It just stresses you out. That's why whenever people ask me, the weekends is just 1 day and a half. Because the Sunday evenings, for me, it doesn't count. That's when you get ready, start meal prepping for the whole week, getting your laundry, etc. So what he said about spending time with his family, I felt that. Because how come can you spend way more time with strangers on a daily basis than your own family? And what I mean by strangers is your colleagues. You spend 8 hours with them while you spend around 2 to 3 hours with your family. And that's why during the lockdown, there was a high rate of divorce because people were marrying each other, but they didn't really know each other. They knew each other when they started being locked down in the same apartment, in the same houses, and that's where the clash started. It showed that many couples were glued together and were tolerant to each other because they weren't spending time together. And at this point, I wonder why being a couple when you don't have enough time to spend with your loved ones. So someone in the comments said, "We weren't meant to work, dog." And the creator answered, "Not for a corporation, at least." Yep. For me, the 5-day work week is too much. It's too much. You take yourself as an example. How many hours do you stay at work without having something to do, without being on a meeting? Nowadays, we have AI. AI is supposed to be a tool, not a replacement. It was supposed to be used as a tool that allows us to automate all the tasks that humans don't need to do. And it was also supposed to give us more time. We don't need to work 5 days a week. 4 days is largely enough, or maybe even less. Because look at Japan. When they started struggling with their birth rate, the first thing they did was reduce the work week from 5 to 4 in order to boost the birth rate, because they knew that the Japanese were going to be extinct in a few years. Someone else said, imagine working all your life and retire your social security not enough to cover your bills. My coworker is 78 and still working. And I've seen this. I've seen coworkers in the past that came back to the workforce. Even though they weren't working full time, they were still working after retirement because they were struggling to pay their bills. And I really felt so bad for them. Imagine working your whole life, and when you are supposed to rest, you have to work even more because the cost of living is so high that the amount of money you had on your social security isn't enough anymore.
About working for a grocery store is that you actually know what's going on with people, and I talk to people every single day, and the government is never ever telling you the truth. They're not reporting the numbers, and nobody was shopping yesterday on Black Friday. Literally every single person that came through my line at the grocery store was not shopping for Black Friday. And I see about maybe 100 people an hour, like on a busy day. Yesterday I want to I saw like maybe 60 people every hour that I was on the register. And every single person that I asked that question to, I was like, hey, what you doing today? Doing any shopping for Black Friday? Every single person. No, just groceries and then going home. I said, oh. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, this year was rough, right? And they were like, yeah, no money in the budget for that. Just literally groceries and going home and gonna chill out, enjoy my day off. No one is buying anything. People are literally just buying their groceries and staying in the house. And the few people that were buying things yesterday, I was like, hey, doing anything for Black Friday? They said, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go home, shop online for a few Christmas presents for like my kids. That's it. Usually you would see people outside of Walmart lined up in previous years. People are not buying things. It's bad. And they can barely afford groceries. I'm telling you this as someone who stands behind that register every single day and watches people count their pennies to buy bananas. It's bad, you guys.
I remember in the past, Black Fridays used to be wild. People used to fight each other for a microwave. They used to snatch each other's products because the deals were so good. But now there's no one. The stores are empty when you go there during Black Friday. For example, Nintendo, they lost 23% of their stock value this week because they didn't sell as much as they expected during the Black Friday. And I wonder why. The answer is they priced out everyone. The first Nintendo Switch used to be extremely cheap and affordable. So you'd see a family buy 3 for their different kids. But the new one is extremely expensive, and the games also are expensive. Then you gotta pay a subscription for the online. And now they ask, why isn't it selling as many as the first one? So someone said, I stopped participating in capitalism. I'm over it. I mean, the fact that you used a phone to tweet, you participated in capitalism in a certain way. It's the only way to stay out of capitalism is either to move in a communist country or to live off grid. But as long as you live in this society, you will be part of the capitalism. And so some enterprise, there is no workaround. For example, when it comes to food, no matter how much you hate that enterprise, they don't have competition. They have like a monopoly. They control the whole market. They lobby a lot with the congressmen, and those congressmen will keep the competition away from the big ones. Someone else shared a personal experience. We are broke. People laid off more every day. My husband lost 30K overnight and then for Thanksgiving laid off without warning and maybe next month too. We are trying to keep our home. The government is lying. Yeah, nowadays, this is why most people, they're afraid to have kids because it will tie you to your job. You'll be so desperate that you'll accept any types of jobs, any types of salary, under any types of conditions because you have to put food on the table.
Traditional American dream, which is like doing better than your parents and being able to provide a lot for your family, is dead, or at least it's changed. Because there are many of us that are well aware that we will never be able to make as much money as our parents did. And I think my mother, who is a boomer and benefited directly from the system in place, said it best when she once said, roughly, that the American dream has changed. It's become very apparent to everyone that in this economy, Gen Z, millennials, and some Gen Xers, many of us will not be able to do better than our parents. We won't even be able to do as well as our parents. And now the American dream has become just being able to get by, being able to maybe afford a house at some point, maybe have a kid or two if we're lucky enough to make that much money. And a lot of us, myself included, who has now experienced company like financial related layoffs twice so far in the last 2 years since I've entered the job market. You know, those of us who feel like we're constantly in fight or flight about bills and how we're going to keep making it by, it's making us miserable and feel so hopeless. And yes, I could sit here all day and show you graphs of how like inflation is going up, and while wages are going up, it's just not matching inflation. So it feels like we're all just constantly working and working, and the goalpost just keeps getting moved further and further away from us. And yeah, it has a lot of us extremely stressed and worried and feel like just giving up because we're constantly running a race where the finish line is getting moved further out. And I think it's obvious that we're all just really exhausted by it now. I know I am. I'm constantly hitting a wall with all of this. And a lot of us have to wake up every day blatantly knowing we will never do as well as our parents did. And we just have to try to make it, somewhat close to that. I'm sorry. My dad passed away several years ago on this date. So I'm just thinking about him, and sometimes I feel like he'd be proud of me, but sometimes I feel like he'd be very disappointed. But he was also an extremely intelligent businessman with multiple degrees, so I think he, more than anyone, would really understand what we're all feeling right now.
I remember when this crisis started, the older generation used to say how the new generation is lazy. They don't want to work anymore. They just complain. But nowadays, they're feeling it. Some of them are getting out of retirement to come back to the workforce, and they aren't complaining anymore. Nowadays, no matter what you do, by default, you have around, let's say, 10 years late compared to your parents. For example, if your parents bought their first house at 25, you, with this actual economy, you are lucky if you buy it at 35. That's why they used to get married at 21. They buy a house at 25. At 27, they had 3 kids. But us, we got to take 10 years later before being able to do that. Why? Because of the economy.
Bro, if I knew how bad the economy was going to be up to date, I wouldn't have been riding no bikes, playing no video games. I would have bought a house when I was 10. They did a study based on today's economy. Like, what should minimum wage be based on today's economy to make sure an American is comfortable living a day-to-day life, like with the prices, how the prices is up to date. Bro, do you know how much they say you need to make an hour to be comfortable around this? $66 an hour. $66 an hour, bro. Who the making that? That ain't even the kicker. You make $66 an hour. You work 40 hours a week. At the end of the month, guess how much you gonna have in whole? 10 bands. Oh no, but don't think you taking the whole 10 bands. You forgot about Uncle Sam. You're going home with 6,500. Maybe a 7-ball if you lucky. Okay, so eliminate all the bills and life expenses from that 6,500. You left even who making $66 an hour after paying all their bills and life expenses at the end of the month. They only gonna be able to save a band or two a month. So regular like me and you was just cooked. We po. We just at this point we just on the internet seeing who can be po better. Who can be best at being po.
So this is it. This was the video. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you agree, you disagree with. Share your personal story in the comments, how you feel the economy is affecting your life. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you soon. Take care.